amid the incessant din of the city that never sleeps, where skyscrapers touch the clouds and haste dictates the rhythm of every step. A singular scene unfolded inside a luxurious building in New York. There, in a marble hall, crystal lights reflected the grandeur of someone who believed themselves greater than all others. Amid laughter and looks of superiority, a millionaire known for his arrogance issued an unexpected challenge. He held a piece of paper with a few lines written in a foreign language. With a wry smile on his face, he looked at the cleaning lady, who was working silently, discreetly collecting the trash left by the executives. He approached, and with a tone of derision that seemed to carry years of contempt for the humble, said, "If you can translate this, I'll give you my salary for this month." Those present laughed. The sound echoed through the room like an invisible audience applauding the cruelty. To them, it was nothing more than a joke, a provocation that reinforced the gulf between those who give orders and those who obey. The cleaning lady, however, remained firm. Her eyes, which concealed untold stories, slowly rose toward the millionaire. That was the moment that changed everything. The tension was palpable in the air, as if even the chandeliers shining overhead were waiting for an answer. And here begins the story few know. A story that's not just about a foolish challenge, but about respect, dignity, and the hidden power many carry within. Because, at that moment, no one could have imagined that the cleaning lady's response would silence everyone. Before continuing, it's important for you to know this video isn't just about a millionaire and a cleaning lady. It's about how we judge people without knowing their journeys. And if you enjoy moving, real, and thought-provoking stories, take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This really helps spread messages that touch the heart and make a difference. And while the laughter still echoed between the marble walls, the cleaning lady's silence prepared the ground for something that would completely change that scene. New York has always been a city of contrasts. On one side, the dazzling glitter of Times Square, the luxurious restaurants, and the shop windows displaying million-dollar jewelry. On the other, the anonymous workers who sustain the great metropolis with their sweat, often invisible to the hurried eye. Between these two worlds, stories of unlikely encounters unfold, revealing truths learned not at renowned universities, but in the silent school of life. The millionaire who stars in this story was one of those men shaped by money. The owner of a prosperous company, accustomed to mixing with the city's wealthiest, he lived surrounded by an aura of power and arrogance. His gestures revealed that for him, those without wealth were nothing more than extras in his main scene. He laughed loudly, spoke with authority, and loved to test others as if it were a cruel game. The challenge he issued to the cleaning lady was not an isolated act. It was simply another reflection of his personality. On the other side stood the cleaning lady, a discreet woman, soft-spoken and almost imperceptible in her presence. She wore no expensive clothes, no glittering jewelry, and no academic titles plastered on the wall. But she brought with her something far more valuable, a wealth of experience unknown to anyone there. She was an immigrant. She had come from far away in search of opportunities, facing hardships few would have the courage to endure. Her life was made up of daily sacrifices, working long hours to provide for her family and, above all, the hope of a better future for her children. To the executives in that building, she was just another employee. A gray uniform, a cleaning cart, and silent footsteps through the luxurious hallways. But inside her were memories of studies, books read passionately, sleepless nights learning languages, and a knowledge no one suspected existed. The contrast between the two was almost cinematic. On one side, the man who believed he held the world in his hands. On the other, the woman who seemed invisible, but carried within her a greatness that needed only an instant to reveal itself. And that was precisely the moment fate chose. The millionaire's challenge wasn't just a bad joke, but the perfect opportunity for the masks to fall. As the room remained expectant, and laughter echoed as if anticipating the cleaning lady's defeat, a different atmosphere began to take hold. It was as if the very landscape of New York, the city of opportunity and surprise, was about to witness a turnaround. And so, amid the laughter of the powerful and the silence of those who work with dignity, the game was set. The next move would come from her, and no one there could have imagined what would happen next. The room remained illuminated by crystal chandeliers, and the air was charged with a kind of energy difficult to explain. The millionaire, with the paper still in his hand, walked toward the cleaning lady as if performing a show. His colleagues, seated in leather armchairs, watched his every move, some already anticipating the final laugh. There was no doubt, for them, this was just another moment of amusement at the expense of someone who had no chance of reacting. He stopped in front of her, lifted his chin, and in a clear, challenging voice, repeated her words as if they were a sentence. "If you translate this text, I'll give you my entire salary." Laughter soon followed, accompanied by knowing looks of someone who felt like they were part of an exclusive club. The paper he held wasn't just a collection of phrases. It was a symbol of his belief that culture, knowledge, and intelligence belonged only to those who had the money to pay for them. Perhaps it was a passage in French or German, or a language he considered too sophisticated to be understood by someone wearing a simple uniform and pushing a cleaning cart. The cleaning lady, however, was undeterred. Her eyes, tired but firm, met his. There was no anger, no submission, just a deep silence that in itself was beginning to unsettle. The collective laughter echoing in the room gradually seemed to be out of place. One of the executives, trying to spice things up even more, commented loudly, "Let's see if she even knows what the title says." More laughter filled the air, but there was something in the cleaning lady's posture that indicated the game wouldn't be that simple. She held out her hand, asking for the paper. The millionaire hesitated for a second, as if unconsciously sensing he was about to take a step too far. But then he returned to his usual arrogant tone and handed the sheet over with a theatrical gesture. Everyone paid attention. The room, previously filled with the buzz of conversation, was plunged into a curious anticipation. What could possibly come of this? Would this be just another embarrassment? Or was something else about to happen? As she stared at the text, an uncomfortable silence began to settle in. The millionaire still smiled, confident he was in control of the situation. But the seconds that followed transformed the atmosphere. The anticipation became dense, almost palpable, as if each unspoken word weighed more heavily than any speech. And it was in this interval of silence that the real twist began to take shape, still invisible to everyone, but inevitable for those who were about to witness the most surprising scene of that night. The paper rested in the cleaning lady's hands. She held it carefully, as if holding something that held more than mere words. Her eyes moved quickly over the lines, and as she read, the room seemed to transform. The executive's murmurs died down. The laughter that had once been booming now sounded out of place, almost forced. For a few moments, silence reigned. And it was in this silence that the first spark of doubt appeared in the eyes of those present. The millionaire, still with the mocking smile on his face, crossed his arms, trying to reinforce his confidence. But deep down, something was troubling him. The cleaning lady took a deep breath, looked up, and began speaking. Her voice wasn't loud, but each word carried extraordinary weight. Without hesitation, she began translating the text with impressive precision, as if she had learned the language since childhood. The sentences flowed naturally, the intonations were correct, and every detail revealed absolute mastery. One of the executive's eyes widened. Another let out a murmur of surprise. Gradually, disbelief took over the room. The woman who, until seconds ago, had been seen only as someone destined to scrub the floor, now revealed herself as someone with profound knowledge, a talent invisible to those who underestimated her. The millionaire couldn't believe what he was hearing. His smile faded, like a mask slowly dissolving. He tried to hide it by adjusting his tie, but the truth was already out in the open. He had been disarmed in front of everyone. As he translated, memories surfaced. He remembered the nights he'd studied by the dim light of a small lamp in his home country, while working during the day to support his family. He remembered the pride of having graduated in literature, of having fallen in love with languages, but also the difficult decision to leave everything behind when life demanded a greater sacrifice. Cleaning wasn't his choice, but his survival. In that moment, each translated word wasn't just a reproduction of a text. It was an affirmation of her dignity, a silent cry of all the times she'd been invisible. It was as if she was saying, without needing to raise her voice, "I am more than you imagine." When he finished the translation, the entire room was completely silent. There was no more laughter, no more snide comments, just the weight of truth hanging in the air. The millionaire, stunned, couldn't react immediately. His lost gaze betrayed the discomfort of someone who, for the first time in a long time, had been put in his place. The paper that once represented power was now nothing more than an ordinary sheet of paper, worthless compared to the greatness of this woman. The cleaning lady calmly returned the paper. There was no arrogance in her gesture, no anger, no desire to humiliate, just the calm of someone who knew who they were and didn't need to prove anything to anyone. The executive's reaction was slow, almost hesitant. Some lowered their heads, embarrassed. Others looked at each other, trying to understand how they could have been so blind. The laughter from minutes ago now seemed shameful, a cruel reminder of how they had participated in a scene they should never have encouraged. And in that luxurious hall, where power seemed to be in the hands of a few, true greatness shone through a woman who never stopped believing in herself. The room, previously filled with the sound of laughter and lively conversation, was now plunged into an almost suffocating silence. It was as if even the crystal chandeliers had dimmed their glow, respecting the scene that had just unfolded. The cleaning lady's flawless translation lingered in everyone's minds, leaving a trail of astonishment and reflection. The millionaire, who had always prided himself on his eloquence and authoritative stance, found nothing to say. His face, previously marked by the confidence of someone who believed he was in control of the situation, was now pale. His lips parted in a mixture of disbelief and discomfort. Never in his entire life had he experienced the weight of such humiliating silence. He tried to smile, perhaps in a desperate attempt to hide it, but the gesture felt forced. The eyes of those present no longer saw him the same way. Before, they were looks of admiration and complicity. Now they were looks of judgment, of shared shame, as if everyone recognized they had been complicit in unnecessary arrogance. The cleaning lady remained firm. She didn't smile, didn't celebrate, didn't provoke. She simply returned the paper with the calmness of someone who knows she doesn't need to shout to be heard. Her attitude contrasted sharply with the millionaire's awkward silence. While he seemed increasingly diminished by his own arrogance, she grew in respect before everyone. One of the executives cleared his throat, trying to break the tense atmosphere, but his voice faltered. Another pretended to fiddle with his cell phone, avoiding the scene. Everyone searched for a way out of the discomfort, but there was no escape. Silence was the only possible response, and in it lay the lesson no one would dare forget. The millionaire finally lowered his gaze. It was a small gesture, but loaded with meaning. That man who always walked with his head held high, defying the world, now lacked the courage to bear the weight of his own shame. His silence had become more eloquent than any speech, and perhaps this was the cleaning lady's greatest triumph. She didn't need to raise her voice or demand respect. She simply showed who she was, and that was enough to dismantle the arrogance of a man accustomed to feeling invincible. At that moment, something changed, not only in the millionaire's heart, but also in the eyes of those who witnessed the scene. Because the silence didn't just silence the arrogance. It echoed like an uncomfortable memory, reminding everyone that a person's worth can never be measured by the clothes they wear or the work they do. And so, between the weight of silence and the lightness of dignity, The hall became the stage for an unforgettable lesson. But the impact of that scene didn't end there. It was only the beginning of a much larger reflection that would permeate the walls of that building and touch each of us. The Millionaire's silence didn't just remain in that luxurious ballroom. It reverberated like an echo, passing through the walls and reaching a much larger space, the consciousness of everyone who witnessed the scene. Because, more than a malicious challenge that ended in embarrassment, that episode revealed something profound about the society we live in, New York. The city that prides itself on being the heart of the modern world is also home to countless contrasts. While some enjoy apartments that touch the clouds, others share tiny rooms in remote neighborhoods, struggling daily to survive. Thousands of immigrants arrive with diplomas, knowledge, experience, and talents that go unrecognized. Doctors, teachers, engineers, writers. Many end up working in invisible roles, such as cooks, drivers, and cleaners. Not for lack of skills, but because the system closes doors and offers only the remaining opportunities. The cleaning lady who faced the Millionaire's challenge represented exactly this. The talent hidden behind simple uniforms, the intelligence hidden in glass offices, the dignity that endures even in the face of contempt. She was a reflection of thousands of stories that are repeated every day in New York, and in so many other cities around the world. The Millionaire's arrogance is a common sight. How often do we judge someone solely by their job? How often do we believe that knowledge and intelligence belong only to those who boast titles or bank accounts? The episode clearly demonstrated how quick we are to belittle others without knowing their backgrounds. It's curious to think how, in just a few seconds, a man who seemed to have all the power was dismantled by a woman who carried only the strength of truth. The contrast between the two worlds exposed a universal lesson. Wealth and wisdom don't necessarily go hand in hand. Money can buy comfort, but it doesn't buy character. It can open doors, but it doesn't guarantee respect. The cleaning lady's greatness wasn't just in her impeccable translation. It was in the way she reacted. Without raising her voice, without seeking revenge, without turning victory into humiliation. Her silence was more powerful than any attack. It was proof that dignity speaks louder when it's not tainted by hatred. And here comes the reflection we need to make together. How many people around us carry talents we never recognize? How many employees, colleagues, neighbors, or even family members have gifts that remain hidden because we never pay attention to them? The lesson from that episode isn't just about a millionaire and a cleaning lady. It's about all of us, because in the end, every human being has a story. Each person carries within them something that cannot be measured by salary, title, or social status. And perhaps the biggest mistake we make is believing we know who someone is just by looking from the outside. While the millionaire struggled with his own silence, the cleaning lady reminded us with her attitude that someone's true value lies not in what they possess, but in what they carry within their essence. This is the reflection that echoes beyond that New York building, a reflection that should cross borders and touch us all. And it is precisely at this point that the story moves toward its conclusion. Because what matters most is not just what happened in that room, but the message we can take into our own lives. The episode that began as a simple prank ended as one of the greatest life lessons the millionaire and everyone present could ever receive. The cleaning lady didn't just earn the respect of an entire room, she earned something much greater, the recognition that her voice, her story, and her dignity could no longer be ignored. The scene reveals a truth we often prefer to forget. There's no such thing as a small human being. Each person carries within them a universe of experiences, talents, and wisdom. The problem is that we live in a society that insists on measuring people's worth by their bank balance, the clothes they wear, or the job they do. And when we do this, we become blind to the beauty that exists in others. The millionaire's attitude, marked by arrogance, found its answer in that woman's firm silence and serenity. She didn't need to raise her voice or stoop to his level. Her greatness lay precisely in demonstrating that true power lies not in humiliation, but in remaining true even when put to the test. And perhaps this is the greatest message you can take away from this story. Never underestimate anyone. Never judge someone by their job, their clothes, or their position. Because, just like that cleaning lady in New York, many people carry talents and stories capable of completely transforming the way we see the world. How many times in your own life have you failed to see someone's value because you were trapped by prejudice? How many times have you missed the opportunity to learn from people who, at first glance, seemed simple but had so much to teach? Life is full of encounters that can transform us, as long as we are willing to see beyond appearances. And if this story touched you, please share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like, because every week we bring you real stories that inspire, move, and remind us of what truly matters, the value of every human being. In the end, the millionaire silently learned what money could never teach him. And we can learn from this scene too, to respect, value, and recognize the hidden greatness